Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a market bag with some cotton yarn. You don't have to use the floss, but for a complete list visit the website or see the description below. Yep, it's Denise from loom.com. Are you ready? Alright, let's begin. So you're going to bring your single strand of yarn and floss if you're going to want to add the color. And we're going to treat them as though they are one. I'm going to secure them to my anchor peg with a simple knot. You can use a slip knot if you want. And then take the working yarn and wrap all of your pegs. Don't worry about the direction. I'm going to the right. You can go to the left. It has no effect on this pattern. Just keep wrapping all of your pegs. And when you get to that last peg, you're going to wrap it again. And you're going to knit off and tighten the stitch. Now we're knitting flat, and so we are going to turn direction instead of going to the other peg. See? And we're going to knit off our pegs. Now I am using a flat stitch here. It's called a flat because you lay your yarn flat over your pegs, and I'm going to knit off my flat stitch. You don't have to use a flat stitch. You can also use the U-wrap. Now right here, for some reason I made this boo-boo, and I took the stitch off, and I wanted to show you how to put that back on. And so I'm glad that happened because I'm able to show you, if that ever happens to you, how you can put your yarn back on your peg. And now, like I said, that was a flat stitch that I'm using right here, but you don't have to use this one if it's too tight for you. You can use a U-wrap, which is you half wrap the peg and knit off, and because it's shaped like a U is why it's called a U-wrap knit stitch. Either one is fine. Just make sure you knit all of your pegs. Once you knit off peg 1, you are done with your cast on, and ta-da, you're ready for row 1. For row 1, you're going to knit the first 2 stitches and do the mock mesh until the last peg. So let's wrap pegs 1 and 2. You're going to knit off these 2 stitches, and now your working yarn is on your second peg and you're ready to do the mock mesh stitch. So for that, you're going to wrap pegs 1 and 3, and you're skipping peg 2. Alright, I want to show you that one more time because it can get kind of tricky. You are on peg 2. This is a 3-peg pattern. So you're going to go back to peg number 1 and you're going to wrap it like this. You're going to skip peg 2, which is here. And we're going to go to peg number 3 and you're going to wrap it. Now hold on to your working yarn and you're going to knit off pegs 3 and 1, which are the only ones that have 2 stitches. And there you go. You've done the mock mesh stitch. And now you have a brand new peg number 2 right here. And so you're going to repeat the process. You're going to go back to peg 1, skip peg 2, and wrap peg 3. Hold on to your working yarn and knit off those 2 pegs that have 2 stitches on them. And when you're done with that, you now have a brand new peg 2. And so you go back, wrap peg 1, skip 2, go to 3, and you wrap it. Hold on to your working yarn and knit off pegs 1 and 3. And now you have a brand new peg 2, and the pattern continues. I think you guys got it, right? Alright, so how about you practice for a little bit, and you're going to continue to do that all the way till you get to your peg 41. And when you knit off, you're done with row 1. You're ready for row 2. And for rows 2 through 75, all you're going to do is repeat row 1. Here we go. Okay, stop. I ran out of floss. Easy fix. I'm going to get another skein of thread, and I'm going to take the two ends, wrap them, make 2 knots, and you can use any version of a knot that you feel better about. There's the magic knot and all other kind of versions. Now you go back to knitting, and don't forget to take the knot off the anchor peg after a few rows. Alright guys, keep knitting. Now personally, when I got to row 50, I did change my main color, and this is what I did. Looks familiar, doesn't it? It's the same process I used to add another skein to my thread, doing the same thing again. Keep knitting the mock mesh stitch until you have 75 rows. For row 76, all you're going to do is knit the row. Remember the knit stitch? After row 1, you're done and you're ready for the super stretchy bind off. Wrap your loom 2 times with both strands, and if you go a little past the 2 rounds, it's okay, no big deal. Get your scissors. We're going to cut both strands, and then get your hook again. We're going to skip that first peg and go to the second. So we're going to skip that one, come here, put the yarn under the existing loop with your hook from the top, scoop that working yarn up and through that existing loop, and then you're going to go back to the peg that you skipped, and you're going to put the yarn on top, and from the bottom you're going to scoop that yarn down. That's how you start. Now you're going to skip that second peg, and you're going to take the working yarn over to the third one. You're here. So keep the yarn tight, put it under the existing loop. From the top, use your hook to scoop that yarn up and through that loop. And then the one that you skipped, which was peg 2, you're going to take it back, put the yarn over the existing loop, and from the bottom with your hook, you're going to scoop that yarn down and through that loop. Keep your yarn nice and tight. That's important. Now you can use a hook. Personally, I'd rather do this with my needle. So I'm going from the bottom up. I'm then going to go back, and from the top down, I'm going to feed my working yarn through that loop. You got that? Alright, then it's important that you take off the previous one. That's going to keep your loops nice and tight, right? So I'm feeding this through with my needle, which works best, and then I'm taking the previous loop off. Then I'm skipping one loop. From the bottom up, I feed my yarn. From the top down, I feed my yarn through the loop, my working yarn. And keep going, because you need to do this to all of them. But I want you to pay attention to the last that I do. So I went here to this one. I go back and I feed it through, right? And I take the loop off, and then I go back again. And that's very important because these are the last ones. So they actually get done twice. It kind of secures your yarn that nothing's going to happen, and then you come one last time through that very last one, feed your yarn, and that makes a knot. And now your cast off is secure and it looks good. You can check both of your ends and you will see that both of them look pretty good, but that your cast off looks better than your cast on. So you don't need to do this, but I do. Find the cast on end and go to the other end and pull on the loose loops. This is tightening your loops. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's extensive, so I'll give you a link in the description for another video that will take you through the whole process. Remember that you don't need to do this, it just looks better if you do. Now, our quick overview of the next step. Make believe that this strip right here is your work. So you're going to take the tip right here and you're going to fold down. And again, just make believe that this is your fabric. Now, that's this end, right? You fold it down. Well, all you're going to do is go to your other end and you're going to fold up. So you take that tip and you fold it up. Now this is paper, not fabric, but it's going to be easier for you to see what we're going to do. You see that they're opposites. One is folding up, one is folding down. Whichever one you choose, it doesn't matter. So don't worry about which end this is going on at, right? You just want to create this. And then you want to fold across. And for that, you take the fabric and you're going to fold it like this. And that is what's going to create your origami purse. And again, we're making believe because you could see it better this way, right? You have your two ends that are going in an opposite direction. And then you're folding like a cross. See it here? You're creating that fold in your fabric so that it creates this shape. All right, you're ready for the real thing, so let me show you. You fold down, right? You go to the other end, you fold up, and you see there's those two edges. And just like with the other one, see they're opposite. Now you're going to go across and there is your shape. And now remember that you can go back and rewind this and look at it again. Whether it's easier to see the fabric being done or the paper being done, you can see, because at first it's a little tricky. Then line everything up nicely, right? And put some clips on. Now here's a quick overview. I wanted to show you again with paper. So you could see it, that creates the shape. And now we're going to add the clips. This is an important step, but it's not a vital, and you can do it any way you want. You can use any tool to keep your stuff, to keep your ends together. And now turn it in the opposite direction. And yes, guys, it is time to sew, but I promise that it's super easy. Get a piece of yarn twice the length, cut it, thread it, then you're going to fold that yarn in half and you want to make a knot. And I know my yarn looks a little crinkly, that's because it came from a previous project that I took apart. Alright, so you make your knot and then you take the needle, you're going to feed it through that little end, the very tip. Feed it through there and then you're going to knot it. And I know you can't see it too good because I went out of camera. Don't worry, I'll show you again how I made this knot. And then you're going to just go from side to side, sewing every single stitch. Please make sure that you don't leave any of them undone. And especially get the little knots, because there are like little smaller knots. Make sure you get those really good. If your yarn finishes, this is how you make a knot. And then go ahead and cut it, because we're going to add more to it. Make another knot just to be secure, and then you're going to feed that through with a crochet hook. You weave it in. It's not necessary because it's the reverse side. It just looks good. Alright, so here is how I started. You see that? In case you missed it when I went off camera, that's how you make that initial knot. And then you just keep, like I said, sewing all the way up. And when you get to the very tip, this is how you end. Now there are two sides where you're going to do this. This is one side. You're going to reverse the purse and then you're going to do the other side. But this is how I ended, and that's how I weave in my ends and then I cut. Alright, so you can then take off your clips and you see this is the front side. So now again you have another side that you need to sew together. And once you do that, personally this seems a little closed, a little open for me in the front. So I'm going to get some thread. This is upholstery thread, and I'm going to feed it through the front just so I can close it up and I feel a little more secure. Now, let's add the strap. What I'm going to be using is clothesline rope, and you don't have to do it this way. I don't want it to be visible, so I get a little glue and I secure my thread to it, again, because I don't want it to be visible. And so I'm going to wrap this rope with the thread that I used to make the purse. And I'm going to go, since I have one white part and one brown part, at the midpoint I'm going to change the color. Now you can make a knot here. I just put a little glue and cut off the excess, and now I'm going to start with the second color that I used for the purse on this end. And this is what I use because I feel that if I put this nice rope around it, a lot of the weight of what I put on my strap will be okay. It's gonna like spread that weight, and my purse is gonna do better than if I just put cotton strap on it and be done with it. So the point of this is to just help carry the weight of what you're putting in the purse. And I ended by just wrapping all the way to the very tip. Again, this is optional. You don't need to do this, but this kind of hides the rope in the bag so that you don't see it. And then on the very tip, I put a little bit more of the glue gun. And you can use other types of straps. I'm going to give you a second option. And even on the second option, I still added the rope, by the way, because I really like this. And then this is invisible thread. I know it sounds crazy, but it really is like invisible, like you really can't see it. So then I take the tip of my purse, and with the invisible thread, I'm going to connect it. And then I'm going to connect the two tips. And again, the other side has some of the rope as well. So then to secure this tip, I'm going to make a knot right here with this color, and you can see that I'm placing my tips over the corresponding color. So this has the white thread, I'm putting it on the white side, and then I take that working yarn and I feed it through a needle, and now I'm going to wrap this tip of my purse to the rope. And as you can see, I'm going side to side to make sure that I bring these two sides together. You see here? And I'm gonna do that till about 1/3 of the rope, because the purse does kind of widen out, as you know, the tip is very tight at the tip, and then as it goes down it starts to widen. So I'm just basically securing this tip to the rope. And then I'm going to do something different. So once I get to that amount, then I'm going to go ahead and secure it. And you can see that you notice that you can't see the rope. And then I'm just going to go up a little to the top to make sure that this is nice and secure, because this is a strap, and some people actually don't put a rope or anything on here. They just use these tips. They'll just make a tie with both tips and be done. So here I make a knot to make sure that that side is secure, and then I weave in this end so you don't see it, but I don't want to get totally rid of it. And then when I'm done, I just cut it off, and there. And you see that you can't see the rope. Then I'm going to take the invisible thread, and it's hard for you to see exactly what I'm doing because you can't really see my thread. So just take my word for it. I am then sewing the rope to my fabric, and I'm going to go for the length of the rope. And by the way, the rope is 24 inches. So I bought a clothesline rope, and I measured out 24 inches, and with my invisible thread, I'm going to then sew that to my purse. And then I'm going to go to the other side. And the first thing I need to do is I'm going to wrap this brown one over that very tip of the other side so that they work together. The two tips really create your strap. And again, I'm just using the rope to reinforce this strap, which are the two tips together. So they are overlapping each other, and you can overlap them more if you want. And you can actually, I'm going to give you a second option that you can actually go back and wrap this again to make yourself feel a bit more secure, right? So it's going to be up to you how much you're going to add to your strap. You can even bring in a different strap. It doesn't matter. You could just feed these two tips into anything you want. And just like the other side, I'm going to go ahead this side and I'm going to sew it. All right, guys, that is the market bag. Let me show you option 2 of the strap. It was when I was doing the test one that I did this pattern. It's basically just a flat panel that I wrapped over the stitch tips. Yep. And while we're here, I wanted to show you other mock mesh stitch patterns that I think you might like. There's the mock mesh shawl, which was, I think, pretty cool, and the mesh sleeve for your bottle. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Please share the video. It helps me a lot. And remember that every day is a good day to love with your looms. Bye.